Recording in progress.
Kol omer kara ve'omar ma'akra. A voice says, cry out, and I say, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and all its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, when the wind of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass, the grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God shall endure forever. We gather together on this day to say everlasting words as we bid farewell to a beautiful and exceptional neshama of Sarah Bas Nachman Bimala, and to soothe the hearts of those who mourn for her. We'll read words of strength and comfort, words composed by King David and King Solomon, words that stem from the heart and have the power to enter into the hearts of others. We'll begin with Psalm 15. Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai mi yagor be'ahalecha mishkon behar kodshecha. Holech tamim ufal tzedek v'dover emes bilvavo. Le'ragal al lishono lo asal re'yura v'cherpa lo nasal kirovo. Nivze beinav nimas v'yesirei Adonai yichaber. Nishba leharav lo yamir kas belonasim beneshech. V'shoichar al naki lo lakach osei lo yimot leolam. O Lord, who shall dwell in your sanctuary? Who shall abide upon your holy mountain? She who lives with integrity does what is right and speaks the truth in her heart, who has no slander upon her tongue, who does no evil to her fellow, who does not reproach her neighbor. In her eyes, a vile person is despised, but she honors those who revere the Lord. She takes an oath even to her own harm and does not change. She does not lend money at interest. She does not take a bribe against the innocent. Whoever does these things shall stand firm forever. Psalm 23. Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai roi lo yechsor. Binois deshe yar bitzeini yamei menuchos yenahaleini. Nafshi shovev yancheini b'magli tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begeit salmoves lo iraro ki ato imodi. Shiftecha mishantecha heima yinachamuni. Taharoich lefonai shulchan neged soirerai. In the shant of Hashem and roshi kosi revaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shabdi veis Adonai li'orech yamim. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He has me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He guides me on paths of righteousness. He revives my soul for the sake of his glory. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod do comfort me. You set a table in sight of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in the house of the Lord forever. It is at this time where we express our extended heart to the family of Sarah Futerman. First to her children, Daphne and Ira, to Eli and Peggy, and to Rena and Danny. To her grandchildren, her beloved grandchildren, Aviva and Ari, Joshua and Taylor, Matthew, Lauren and Dan, Alex and David. And to her great-grandchildren, Michael, who's representing the great-grandchildren today, Ethan, Emma, Benjamin, Madison, and Noah. And we thank her caretakers, caregivers, Kim, Pam, Latasha, and Darlene. It's important today to to recognize, we speak of the Yeshiva Shalmati and the Yeshiva Shalmala, those who dwell on this earth and those who are in the upper realm. At this moment, we escort Sarah Bat Nachman to her family. To her family she hasn't seen in a very long time. To her father, her 4 brothers who perished in the Holocaust. And she joins her mother and her 3 sisters who were able to survive with her. And she also reunites with her incredible husband, Michael. And to sing the words of King Solomon at this moment in time, which is customary at the Levaya, at the funeral of a woman, but in particular right now, as this beautiful couple that created such a beautiful family reunites in heaven, we recite the Eshet Chayil, the woman of valor. Eshet Chayil mi yimsa verachok mipni michra, batach balev bala v'shala lo yachsar, gimelasu tov v'lo rakol yemei chayeha, kamu v'ana v'ashrua bala v'yahalala, rabot banot asu chayil v'at alit al kulana, sheker achein v'hevel hayofi, Isha yirat Adonai titalal, tinulami priyadeh v'yahalu v'asha'ari ma'aseh. A good wife who can find. Her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and nothing shall he lack. She renders him good and not evil all the days of her life. She opens her hand to the needy and extends her hand to the poor. She is robed in strength and dignity and cheerfully faces whatever may come. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. She tends to the affairs of her household and eats not the bread of idleness. Her children come forward and bless her husband too, and he praises her. Many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a God-revering woman is much to be praised. Place before her the fruit of her hands. Wherever people gather, her deeds speak her praise. At this time, we're going to begin the Hespedim, the eulogies. I call upon first Sarah's oldest daughter, Daphne, and then followed by her grandchildren.
Mom, you were so many things to so many people, all who loved you so much. A wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, daughter, sister, aunt, and friend. For you, family always came first. My mother was proud to stay home and take care of her children, and caretaking was what she loved to do most. For my dad of blessed memory, for myself, Eli, and Rena, and later her 6 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. As many of you know or learned today, my mother was a Holocaust survivor. I believe that this colored who she was and how she lived her life. When I was growing up, I learned very little about the Holocaust from my mom. It was hard for me to fathom the horrors she endured. Instead, I tried to educate myself. Not until she made the Spielberg tapes did I learn about her story. This opened an avenue for me to learn more about her personal experiences. That is when I finally began to ask questions and understand. Her survival instinct was so strong until the very end of her life. And what a life it was. Mom traveled all over the world with my father. She enjoyed life to the fullest and had many wonderful times with my father, our family, and close friends. She loved Israel and visited often. My father began a tradition of taking his children's families to Israel, and when he passed, my mom did not want this tradition to die. I will always treasure our trip to Israel with my mom, Ira, Matthew, and David. I know it must have made a strong impact on our family since Matthew made Aliyah. Just give me a minute. Judaism and temple were very important to my mother. She went to temple every weekend, brought by her caring aides until the pandemic. I remember going to temple every Saturday with my mother when I was growing up. Survivors must understand the importance of faith and holding on to Jewish identity. Mom, I admire how you held on despite the atrocities of the Nazis. Thank you for passing this on to our family. I could go on forever with so many beautiful memories of Mom before Alzheimer's disease robbed her of her life. Even then, there were smiles, I love yous, and tapes of Mom talking during the dinners at our houses. I admired my mom's strength as she moved on after Dad died 23 years ago. Her strong will to survive and independent spirit stand out to me and many who know her. As I received condolences from families and friends, they mentioned qualities like spirited, strong, independent, feisty, protective of family, loving, poised, and resilient. The list could go on and on. My mother will live in my heart, and I'm sure watch over our family forever. Say hi and give Dad a kiss for me. I'm sorry I did not put on lipstick today, Mom, but you were right. When I cut my hair, it does get curly, and as my sister Rita says, I love you to the moon and back.
Okay, you guys figure it out. Good afternoon. My name is Aviva Shoche, and I am Sarah Futerman's granddaughter. When I was little, I could not say grandma, so I went with Amma. So for everyone who was wondering, I came up with the name. I don't really know where to begin. In her final years, I always said she was a survivor and so strong. I think we all know that Amma was a Holocaust survivor. Growing up, we didn't talk about it until I was in middle school, and she participated in the Shoah testimonies. I am so grateful that I will forever have her story and her voice, and when Michael and Ethan are older, they will be able to see her story themselves. This is what makes her loss so profound and sad. Not only did we lose our Amma, but the world lost a survivor. What the Holocaust survivors created after the war was nothing shy of a miracle. From the establishment of the State of Israel, which my Saba, may he rest in peace, fought for, to the families that these survivors created. That is the true testament of their experience. My Amma raised 3 children, while Saba provided a living for their growing family. With strong Jewish values and a Zionistic spirit, these 3 children each had 2 children of their own. My cousin and I are the product of this long legacy of love, strength, and family, which brings me to my next point, family. As all of you here today know, how incredibly important family is to Ari and I believe that Amma was really who installed that in me. I remember all the yontifs we had together, whether they were in Rochester, Florida, or Israel. I once even crashed a family trip to Israel because I just wanted to be with my family. Amma was fortunate enough to attend all 6 of her grandchildren's bar and bat mitzvahs, which at the time didn't seem like a big deal, but today it does. Then she was able to walk down the aisle when Ari and I got married in this very sanctuary. Amma walked down the aisle at Josh and Taylor's wedding in Manhattan, and back in this sanctuary for Lauren and Dan's wedding. How she must have felt to be part of those simchas after all she had experienced and accomplished, I don't think I will ever comprehend. Amma was a great grandmother to 6 wonderful kids: Michael, Ethan, Emma, Ben, Madison, and Noah. I do not always enjoy being the oldest cousin, but I feel fortunate that my boys, Michael and Ethan, got to know the real Amma. Michael was not only the first great-grandchild, he is also named after my Saba, Mike Futerman. The bond that Michael and Amma had from the beginning was magical to watch. I am so thankful that we were able to capture so many memories, whether they were pictures or videos of my children with Amma. Amma, thank you for teaching your children and grandchildren the importance of love, strength, faith, and values. I promise that Ari and I will continue your legacy and pass it on for generations to come. Thank you.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank you for joining us in person or virtually over Zoom. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Josh Futerman, and Sarah Futerman, or how she was more commonly known in our family as Amma, was my grandmother. And what a grandmother she was. I want you to take a moment and picture what comes to mind when you think of a superhero. Maybe you think of a character wearing a cape or a mask, perhaps someone with bulging muscles like the Hulk. Maybe the superhero you have in mind is not fictional, but a family member or a friend. When I think of a superhero, I think of my Amma. My grandmother endured and survived the Holocaust. If there ever was a superhero qualification, I would say surviving through that terrible time in our world's history is a significant feat. Although she did not frequently speak about that unforgettable time in her life with our family, she did record her story for the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum and the Shoah Foundation. I am grateful that those recordings will forever immortalize her story. Although my kids are too young to understand or know about the Holocaust, when they are old enough and they learn in school about that awful time period, Amma will be able to share her story through those recordings with them and future generations so that we never forget. It is important to never forget. Amma was truly an incredible woman. She was tough, but also so loving. She always told you exactly the way it was. There was no sugarcoating it. I am grateful that when in grade school, my parents decided to move, and they were renovating their new house. During the renovation, we moved into my Amma and Saba, the soul's house. I cannot remember for how many months we lived there, but I know that every night we had a delicious home-cooked meal, and on the weekends, my grandparents took me and my sister for ice cream. I know that Amma was so proud of me, my sister, and our 4 cousins. I like to think that she was proudest when she was celebrating a simcha, whether it was a bar bat mitzvah, wedding, or welcoming 6 great-grandchildren into this world. She led an incredible life with her husband, Michael Futerman. They were very fortunate to travel all across the globe before my grandfather passed away. I remember when I was studying abroad in London, I would call Amma on Fridays to wish her a good Shabbos, and she would ask me where I had traveled to, and I would share the most recent European destination. And she would tell me how she had visited that same place with my Saba many years prior. It is a terribly sad disease, Alzheimer's, to have so many incredible life experiences but not be able to recall them. The onus is on me and my cousins to ensure that both the positive and the negative life experiences are passed on from generation to generation. Amma, we will miss you, and we will remember you and Saba forever.
Hey y'all, how's it going? I'm Matthew. I am the third oldest of Sarah's grandchildren, the oldest son of the young lady who spoke first today. Over the last 7 years, I've unfortunately lived with two oceans separating my grandmother and me, between the Atlantic and Alzheimer's. In my early years as an Oleh Hadash in Israel, we would talk every Friday before Shabbat. She'd ask about life and work, but first and foremost, she'd always ask if I had a girlfriend yet, and the answer was still no. Anywho, later on, the calls became a little harder, with mostly silence on the other end of the line, till the closing Shabbat Shalom. It always ended with, I love you. Every trip home became exponentially more difficult to stomach, knowing those one-sided calls would then manifest as a physical form I wasn't prepared to accept yet. That is until 2 years ago, when I started to explore her house of treasures to cope with the inevitable pit in my stomach or the teary eyes that followed from going for those visits. See, because her house was the treasure. It was our family museum. Everything happened there. You couldn't find any empty surface in her family room because they were all covered with every photo that had ever been sent to her of her grandchildren or her great-grandchildren. Dig a little deeper, you'll find photos from her children's wedding. They may be pushed aside, but they're there. No cabinet had room for another album. Her life story had become in support of the people she loved most on earth, and they were always around her. But that's only the end of her story. Back on a visit last October, I found a handful of photo albums in one of the bedrooms that I'd never seen before, including her wedding album. It's hard not to talk about Amma as a survivor, but in these moments within her first couple decades in America, you couldn't see any of that pain, just joy and love. The love of being with her sisters and holding her nieces and nephews, as well as the joy of just simply living. With respect to Aunts Dinah, Mary, and Bobby, however, there was only one person that truly made her glow, my grandfather, Mike. I was too young to remember how they were together before his passing, but I swear I've never seen Amma shine like the way she shined in these photos. In the decades of visiting her in Florida, she never once wore a bathing suit or even stepped into the sun for that matter. But here she was, posing for the camera in a bathing suit. And not only posing and looking damn good doing so, but she was smiling from ear to ear because she was with him. What I would give to meet that version of my grandmother. Oh my God. What I would give to meet that Sarah Futerman. The young woman filled with so much true romantic love, she literally couldn't hold it all inside. Instead, I only knew my Amma, and that's okay. The woman that certainly had no idea how much of an impact she had on my life. The woman that took me on my first trip to Israel and walked side by side with me through each exhibit of Yad Vashem, making a point to stop and explain in detail all of the horrors that she and others experienced, while also introducing me to the beauty of the place I now call home. The woman whose beliefs on family and Judaism brought us all together for every holiday, and there was no exceptions for that. But also the cause of my only bouts of homesickness abroad, but also an extreme and inexplicable love as a part of her legacy. Because that's what her legacy will be, love, with a heaping dose of strength and resilience too. That it's no matter that Alzheimer's robbed her of her memories in her twilight years, because her love never faltered, it never faded, and our memories of her will always be about how she loved us, and we loved her. Thank you.
Good afternoon, family and friends. I'd like to thank everyone for being here in person and virtually. For those who do not know me, I'm Sarah's youngest granddaughter, Lauren. and not her favorite because she had no favorites. We all were her favorites and had our own special relationship and bond with her. Are we not the luckiest to have an amazing Amma? There are 1,000 words I could use to describe her, but to name a few, she was strong, courageous, resilient, kind, caring, stylish, and most of all, a loving woman. Some of my fondest memories will hopefully help paint a picture for you all of what my Amma meant to me. Family vacations. Growing up, once winter hit in New York, Amma would leave the cold as a true snowbird and head down to Florida. I will never forget the car rides and all the laughter we had. Sometimes we laughed so hard we cried. The best was when Amma thought she could talk back to the OnStar navigator in the car. My dad and her were two peas in a pod sitting up front during our drives. They had quite an audience. Something I will remember and truthfully never understand at the beginning was how a 1-hour wait for a table turned into a 10-minute wait, or a sold-out movie on Christmas all of a sudden became available for all of us. There was no waiting for Amma. She had done that growing up in her past life, and she wasn't going to wait again. I was also fortunate to go to college in Florida for a year and be 45 minutes away from Amma. And of course, once she turned into a snowbird, my roommate and I would go visit her on the weekends. In true Amma form, we would get an 8 a.m. wake-up call, and she took the best care of us. I am so grateful to have that time with her and get some extra love when I needed it. This is all when Amma was as sharp as a tack, extremely sassy, yet extremely fair. Then the Alzheimer's came. I got to see all the values she embodied, carried by my mother, Aunt Daphne, Uncle Eli, as they worked to provide care to their mom. They went above and beyond to make sure that she was always comfortable and cared for. I've learned so much the past year seeing how they cared for their mother. It is something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. Amma had a loving family and also a support staff that took incredible care of her. She was a fighter and fought until the end. Amma had a whole team behind her that took exceptional care of her day and night. We are thankful to you from the bottom of our hearts. I am so beyond blessed and fortunate that Amma was able to be at my wedding and walk down the aisle in this very room. I know she was proud of me for marrying a nice Jewish boy. She always had a smile on her face when we went to visit. Not only was I lucky that she was at my wedding, she was able to meet my daughters, Madison and Noah. It was one of the greatest joys walking in her house with my family and her great-granddaughters. I know how much she loved them, Michael, Ethan, Emma, and Ben, and how much they all loved her. I was lucky enough to bring my oldest daughter, Madison, to see her last week. It was a last-minute decision and the best one I made. These experiences, lessons, and memories from Amma are instilled in me to this day and always be a part of who I am. Amma, I promise that Dan and I will continue your legacy with Madison and Noah and the son that Dan still wants for us to have who would be named after you. Amma, I will always be your kid. I can't wait to teach my daughters all about you. The photos, videos, and memories will last us a lifetime. Please give Saba a hug from me. You meant the world to me and are so special.
Thought I had it together before that. Hello to everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I can't and don't think I'll ever be able to find the words to express my gratitude for you all being here. Something that has been making the grieving process so difficult for me is overcoming the recency bias of what I remember about Amma. I find that how I remember her unfortunately gravitates to the end of her life, living as a widow who lost her husband far too soon and fighting a battle with Alzheimer's. This was such a small portion of what was such a grand and remarkable life. When my cousins raised the idea of us speaking, this seemed like a great opportunity to remember the positives of Amma's life and remember for myself of just how lucky I was to call her Amma. Amma was loving and kind. She cared about the relationships she developed in life, and she nurtured them well. Some of those relationships she nurtured are some of, if not the most important in my life, the relationships I have with my family. She devoted so much time, effort, and energy alongside Saba, may they rest in peace together now, to creating a loving family. time she devoted towards creating my family, our family, continues to persist and give us all strength when we need it. As I've had some time to reflect, I've realized that my Saba, may he rest in peace, was often given credit for accomplishments in isolation. I'm embarrassed and ashamed to admit it that it's only until recently that I've realized that Amma was an incredibly strong foundation and backbone for him, and that she had an unwritten and invaluable part in those accomplishments. As the saying goes, behind every strong man, there's a strong woman. Strength is the quality I'll most fondly and deeply remember Amma for. Amma was an incredibly strong woman, if not the strongest woman I've known in nearly every sense. From surviving the Holocaust, all the way to her last breath, Amma embodied what it means to be a fighter, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I want to encourage us all to remember Amma, or Sarah if you knew her as Sarah, as a grandmother, mother, spouse, and a friend to all of us, with a blessed amount of fortitude. A grandmother, mother, spouse, and friend to all of us, who created an aspirational legacy rooted in caring, kindness, and love.
Okay, last one, guys, I'm sorry. So, hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm David. I'm Sarah's baby grandchild, the youngest. Thank you all for coming to honor such an amazing woman. My grandmother, or Amma, as you've heard we call her, was just an absolute survivor. Yes, she lived through Auschwitz, but it was really so much more than that. You know, she raised my mother, which shows a lot of strength, I'm sure. But beyond that, Amma carried resiliency around with her everywhere she went, secretly and perhaps unknowingly, spreading it to her family and her friends. I can't look at my mom. How lucky am I that I caught some of that resiliency before I knew that I would need it the most. Her teachings of persistence began long before I could really remember. We're talking attempting to toilet train a toddler that just really loved his diapers. I would run circles around her, naked, of course, trying to run away from her, screaming, "Amma, no toilet, Amma, no toilet." But that wouldn't stop her because nothing would. Years later, she continued to demonstrate her strength of character. I'll never forget how she would march right up to the beginning of even the longest line. At a movie theater on a Friday night with 30 people in line, nope, straight to the front. At one of the busiest restaurants in Florida that doesn't take reservations, straight to the front. Those things happened repeatedly on multiple occasions, but that's my grandmother in a nutshell and one of the many reasons that I love her. When I was old enough to question, but really still too young to understand, I asked why. She explained with a really simple yet extremely thought out, "I don't wait in lines anymore." Sure, people would glare, but that wouldn't stop her. Amma's decision to cut lines now seems so calculated, and in reality, a simple decision to reclaim her dignity every day. This is one of the many lessons Amma taught me through her strength. In medicine, we monitor 4 key vital signs: heart rate, blood pressure, temperature, respiratory rate. But Amma established my 5th vital sign, my support system. She modeled what it means to love your brother, to love your mother, or your father, your aunts, cousins, or uncles. Because for Amma, It was family over absolutely everything. It trumps all. If there's one thing I'm sure of in life, it is that I and the 5 people standing behind me absolutely agree. And for that, I really know that Amma is proud. Please tell Saba that I say hi and that I'm finally graduating medical school. We now and always will love you, Amma. Thank you guys so much.
Dvarim hayotzim min halev nichnasim lalev. Words that stem from the heart have the power to enter in the hearts of others. I'd like to read a message, a eulogy that was sent by Rabbi Bitran to the family. Sarah Futerman came to shul regularly. Almost every Shabbat, you could find her sitting on the left side of the synagogue, impeccably dressed with her hair done beautifully. She didn't fall asleep during my sermons, I believe. And after services, she wished people a good Shabbat, and on some occasions she stayed for our Kiddush luncheon. With the passing of time, we didn't see her as much. We knew she was well taken care of, but unable to attend Shabbat services anymore. From time to time, we inquired about her health and noticed her absence. A few weeks ago, we decided to visit her. We arranged for a visit knowing that soon the Almighty will call her to her eternal rest. Her children and grandchildren all gathered around her bed. We said the Vidui, and later we all repeated the Shema Yisrael. We listened to her challenged breathing, but she looked at peace. I was apprehensive that she would pass away while I am visiting my own mother in Chile. I was told she is a survivor and that many times prior she has come back with renewed energy and defiant love for life. This time was different. God was ready for her. She was ready for God. And I believe her entire family was ready as well. I have no doubt she will be terribly missed. I am sure Kaddish will be recited by her children every day, 3 times a day, no matter where they might be, as they did for Mike of blessed memory. Sarah's death is the end of an era. It is up to us now. We are the generation of our parents. Rest in peace, dear Sarah. You were an Im b'Yisrael, a mother in Israel, and good mother to your children, Daphne, Ira, Eli and Peggy, Rina and Danny. They will miss you. Tei nishmata tzura b'tzora chayim. May the soul of Sarah bat Nachman v'Ma'ala be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Amen. Sarah Futerman was brought into this world on Saturday, August 3rd, 1929 in Poland. And her soul returned to her Creator on Monday, March 7th, 2020, on the 4th day of Adar Bet, in the year 5782. The totality of Sarah bat Nachman Mala, of Amma, can be defined by 2 words, Bacharta B'chaim. She chose life in every essence of the word. She advanced life. She was ahead of her time, and she embraced life. She loved to travel. She loved tennis. She loved to fish. Not to put on the bait, that's debated. Loved to walk. She always was very fancy. Loved to knit, finger point. She would drive everywhere and would know how to circumvent all traffic. She always had a lot of beautiful plants in her home. She would keep her house extra clean. And she loved to cook. She loved things before they were loved by all. She loved avocado and egg before it was known as avocado toast. She loved Chinese food before it became popular in America. She loved eggplant, chalatzim, and chopped liver, of course. And she probably had par of cheese that she made and some vegan meats before it was popular as well. She had a work ethic like no other. And as we've heard so beautifully, a beautiful huddle of grandchildren, how they were going to express the ultimate love that one can have for a grandmother. She loved family. And she was so fortunate to have that love surround her until her very last day. The family shared with me the story of when Eli and Peggy were just engaged, and the Baba came to Rochester to be part of that simcha. The Baba was Sarah's mother, and it so happened that she had a stroke in Rochester, and she found her finding resting place in Rochester. She passed away here. And Sarah mentioned that there was a reason why her mother passed away in Rochester and not down in New York with her other three sisters. It's because Sarah performed the ultimate level of kibbud av v'em. Sarah saved her mother's life. In Auschwitz, as her mother was taken to the line of those that will die, Sarah pulled her back, kicked the SS guard, and said, "You're not taking my mother." And because of her, Sarah's mother continued to live on and was able to create a life in America. And she felt that was the reason why she returned to her Creator in the presence of her dear daughter, Sarah. And as we know of the beautiful story, the beautiful bond, the beautiful match made in heaven of Sarah and Mike, after just 6 weeks after that first date in Toronto, getting married 6 weeks later. And she followed Mike wherever he was going to go. First destination, New York, Daphne's born. Second destination, Erie, Pennsylvania, Eli was born. And then finally into Rochester, Rena was born. She followed him wherever she was, a support like no other husband could have imagined. But as we've heard and as the family shared with me, it took a while for her to even open up at all about the Holocaust. She never spoke about the Holocaust. She was very quiet. In a way, she was like Esther, the story of Purim that we're going to be reading in just a week. Esther, when she was crowned the queen, she never mentioned her birthplace or her nation. She kept very quiet. Because if you speak about that, you're not going to save the Jewish people. You won't be able to go on. Sarah understood to dwell on the Holocaust would paralyze the growth of her future. She protected her children. She chose life that was going to be going full speed ahead. That in our family, we're not going to wait in line. We don't slow down. We have to go forward. She grew a family, a beautiful family that only had beautiful dreams and no nightmares. It is no surprise that her entire family is heavily involved in the Jewish community in Rochester, in almost every area of growth that we have in this city, because it's a family that's bacharta b'chaim. It's a family that continues to choose life. And in a way, she is our Sarah Amma Nu. She is our matriarch Sarah. But in her hearts of heart, she did carry the pain. It never left her. To be torn apart from a father and 4 brothers, to witness that moment in Auschwitz. She knew the face of a survivor. She could indicate it a mile away. She knew when people were suffering. She had a sixth sense. She had a sense for the 6 million. It was clear to her, but she kept it to herself. And she prayed. She committed herself to temple, to her Beit HaKnesset. She brought comfort to all who knew her. And if you haven't had strength to go to temple until now, today is a day that we have a very special reason to be in temple. Because Sarah Futerman, because our Sarah Bat Nachman, she went to temple. It was her comfort, it was her strength. She couldn't stand the suffering of innocent people. And just a week ago, as Eli was on this stage, beseeching our community to help those innocent who are suffering in Ukraine, and Eli mentioned he could never have imagined that people would suffer in a similar way to that which his own mother experienced. And I believe she felt the same. She now joins the Kedoshim, the sacred, in the eternal world, near the throne of God. And on behalf of the world, she says to God, enough. We are not waiting anymore. Stop the suffering. Let us move forward. Let us choose life. May her memory bring for us a better future. And may her blessing bring comfort to her children, family, and her community. The mysteries of life and death are beyond human understanding. We are perplexed and overwhelmed when pain and anguish befall those whom we love. In sorrow confronted by death, which has taken our dear Sarah Futerman from our midst, we feel our frailty like delicate flowers. We flourish only for a day. Eternal God, Shepherd of Israel, guide us, your flock, with love and with compassion. If in our grief and desolation we stray from you, do not abandon us, but draw us closer to you. Grant solace and comfort unto those who mourn. May their lives together help to sustain them and add to the blessing which is theirs in the memory of the life of their beloved Sarah Futerman. In the valley of the shadow of death beside the still waters, and in the green pastures, you, O Lord, are our shepherd. Be our strength and our shield, our stay and our comfort throughout all of our days. And let us say, Amen. I ask everyone to rise for the memorial prayer. Before doing so, I'd just like to announce the Shiva times and the Minyan times that will take place at Sarah's home, 85 Trevor Court Road. Daily, there will, except for Shabbat, there will be Shacharit at 8 a.m. Mincha and Marav will be at 5:45 in the afternoon. Shiva this evening will be at 7 through 9 p.m. Thursday will be 2 to 4 and 7 to 9. Friday will be 2 to 4. And then Sunday and Monday, once again, will be from 2 to 4 and 7 to 9. El mole rachamim shochem b'amroimim hamitzei menuch nechoino tachas kanfei hashechino im b'mahalos kedoshim utorim kizohar akia mazirim Es nishmas Sarah Bas Nachman Shehalachal Yohlama In Began Eden Tehei Menuchasa Oh no Bal Rachamim Astireo B'sei Seken Ofechel Yolamim Utzror b'trachayim es nishmasa Adonai unachalasa v'sanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'noimar amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Sarah Bat Nachman Vimala, who has gone to her eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that she performed in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is her portion. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.